Hey, am I on? Hey, I'm on. I got 49 minutes to talk. Don't worry, I won't talk the whole time. Hi. Hi, everybody. I'm all hooked up here. I got a kinky cord today. That reminds me, kinky. Reminds me of Kinky Boots, which reminds me of Cyndi Lauper, who just got nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yay, Cyndi Lauper! One of my favorites from the 80s. So, yeah, Leslie Bilodeau-Plazik here for my Sazuplaz report for February 5th, 2023. And look, today, we're over in the middle here. We got a nice little tree. We got some dirty snow. That's all that's left. We got some plains up there. Yep. Oh, it's nice out here. I was afraid. No, so that's the first thing. I was like preparing to come out here in long underwear and like, everything. I used to have, a long time ago, when the boys were little, we all had long underwear, because the kids used to go out this kind of weekend. They'd have, Boy Scout camping expeditions. And they'd go out and it would be below zero, and my husband would be out there with these kids camping in like the the woods. There's a park near us called Shinipsic, and in Connecticut, and the boys used to go out there. There was a cabin, and they'd all they camp out and they'd stay in the cabin. It was very rough. I don't think there was even heat. They'd make a fire, and they'd camp out there. And then they'd have like this Klondike thing, they called it. Klondike. Not the ice cream, kind of like up north in the Arctic. They had certain things they had to accomplish, right? And then they would, get certain badges or whatever, and that was great. Those weekends were so much fun for our boys. With the older one, and then the younger one would come along. He was Cub Scout, and then when he's 2.5 years younger. So as soon as he could, he'd go along with the older boys, and tailing along until he could actually go out there, and he loved it. The boys loved it. And there were some hardy moms who would go out there. I wasn't one of them. But, I went on lots of hikes and picnics, and, I'd always go to the end of the year thing when they'd march with the flags, and, go out and shoot the cannon, and then we'd have a barbecue, and it was the whole thing. But, however, where I used to work, I did go bear tracking one year. What was it, 2016 or something? They go out when I worked at the State Environmental Protection Agency, and my younger son was 11. I took him out of school for the day, and we went, and they find the bears. They tag the mother bears, and they have to go and take the old collars off, put the new collars on, and the cubs and everything, while they're still hibernating. And that was the most exciting. That was like, he told me years later, he said, "Mom, that was the best day of school. He doesn't remember anything else except that one day." And here I was feeling guilty as a mom taking him out of school. But, that turned out to set him on a path to want to be in environmental science, to want to study the trees and he's an outdoor kid. So did I take the older one bear tracking? No, because I wasn't working there when he was, at that age. He needed something different from me, He needed to, have books read to him when he was a kid. So I read books to him. So he was a different kid. We read the series of unfortunate events, the Lemony Snicket series, and we laughed about, Count Olaf and all the adventures. And each kid who comes along tells you what they need. They do, but you have to listen. You have to be present. If you're present in every moment, it'll tell you. You'll get just a signal. what to do, how to act. That's the way I live my life. And that brings me to today's topic, which is freedom. And that means something different to everybody, but it's a good time of year to talk about that, and everybody's got their own idea what that word means. But every day I get up, I read a little bit from an inspirational book, like The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Gibran. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he wrote a book called The Prophet, and there are several chapters, and people are asking him. He's a wise man, and the people of the village are asking him questions about different things. Tell me about friendship. Tell me about love. Tell us about, freedom. So today, every day I get up, open to a different page, and today's word was freedom. So I said, you know what? And then sometimes I look for the reading of the week, just so I balance it out, get some Christian stuff here, get some, wisdom and some philosophy. And so what I've done is I've pieced together my own belief system, the Zazu-Plaz belief system, based on what I think, as I go along in life, makes sense to me, right? Not in a mindset, but what resonates with my heart. What lights me up, if you will, right? And then I go out and I radiate that to the world, right? And I have no intention other than this is what I must do, right? And one thing I always, since it's the reading where, the salt of the earth, the light of the, putting the light of the world, on a hill and not under a bushel basket. I always used to hear that. In my book, Zazu-Plaz, Audacious Adventures of Zazu-Plaz, I have a whole chapter on this topic. I had a teacher in high school who really, he was a great influence on me, he really inspired me. Mr. Greer. He was my high school English teacher, and he was the moderator for the literary magazine. So when I was coming up, I was writing, and he was encouraging me to continue to write, and to express my gifts, share my gifts with the world, right? And that's a great kind of teacher, because he saw me, there's a difference between, seeing something and seeing it, really seeing it, which really doesn't depend on physical sight as much as it does as sensing your energy, you're an aura, right? You can do that if you find a quiet place on a daily basis to meditate and to really, really do a spiritual practice, which is what I've been doing for a while now. And I've been using astrology, a lot of different things, but it's that practice that builds those extra senses, right? The ones we don't talk about, the ones when we were kids, when we used to ask about, or we used to express, and everybody just went, "Rah!" It's like, oh, look, what do you think about this? And I just went, just put that away, that dirty, don't, okay, go do your homework. Anyway, now that we're grown up, right? So we said, well, when I'm grown up, I have the freedom to explore those things, right? But, in other words, okay, so freedom. What I think, okay, take this as a grain of salt, salt of the earth. Each of us, right, it's like we're a particular spice in the whole stew of life. And if you don't put a spice in, right, any cook will tell you, you taste it and it's off, right? Because okay, who was in charge of putting the salt in there, or the pepper, or the you know, or the red hot chili peppers, or whatever, you know? My husband's watching them tonight on TV. Hey, um, so everybody contributes something to the big pot, right? And if you're hoarding your spice, right, or whatever your ingredient is, and you're not sharing it, then you know it's just not going to be the same dish without you. You might think, well, what do I have to contribute? Well, that's for you to find out, right? Nobody's going to tell you. I spent my whole life trying to do, what first you do what you think you should do, right? You, you what others are telling you to do. Sit down and you eat your dinner and go to bed. And then after a while, you start going, da, 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 da. But then what? And then, all the people who used to tell you what to do are gone. And one day you go, wait a minute, what the hell am I doing? I don't have to listen to those people anymore. Tell me who I have to be. I can, my oldest son gave me this. It's Saturn. It's Saturn, the planet, okay? And you can make it different colors, see? So I thought, I've always been a little scared of Saturn, because it's the malefic or whatever. Saturn return. So you had a Saturn, in other words, the planet Saturn, it takes how long? Almost 30 years to go around, right? And Saturn is the planet of like Father Time. It's like discipline. It's like, but it's, Saturn's the planet that tells you how far you can go, right? And it's kind of a taskmaster, If you've gone too far, Saturn will throw you back on your butt. And it doesn't take that long anymore. Used to take a long time to go around. Go around comes around, right? Now it's like, right? Like a whip. So so there's that. But then you have to learn how to use that, right? To your advantage. Saturn can be excellent at helping you get things done. As long as you, do what you must do, which is what your soul came here to do. And once you find what that is, that's real freedom. Somebody can, whatever they do to you, whatever they try to do or say to you, right? You can choose how to respond to that. And for those who might say, oh, you and your stars, you know who you are. People who tell you not to do your astrology, not to do writing, not to take notes. Your doodles aren't doodles. My doodles are whatever the hell I want to doodle, right? You go somewhere and somebody's in your face telling you, you can't do that. There's my boundaries. Blah, 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 blah. Go somewhere else. And find a place where you can be and do what you must do, which is your dharma, your soul, which your soul glories in, right? Where you're not just your passion, right? Because passion, it's kind of like a fire. It burns really bright, and then it gets, and passions they're fickle, like what's ticking and talking today? Tick tock. It's like weather, like time. It's like tick 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 tick. You can't keep. That's not long. That's not lasting. It's not enduring. Saturn likes things that last a long time, like really long time. That's where we have to be looking, like, right, But then, you can't you can't just be thinking about that, but you have to act in the moment the way you see yourself in our future. You look, and for me, Zazu Plaz was my vehicle for, getting up every day and wanting to get a little bit closer to what Zazu Plaz represents to me. And she represents my higher self. You know, she represents the person I aspire to be. you know, in all ways, not just one way. But geez, when I do my work, I look at a big poster of my Zazu Plaz on the wall. And not to say that I'm resting on my laurels, but I see her as the vehicle that I'm taking into my future. And that's where I want to spend my time. And that is where I meet other people living at that level, at their highest level. You see what I mean? And everything else is just down below. It's just scenery. Oh, there's the plane. That's what it means by putting your light on the, you just do what you must do, right? And that does require discipline. But it's, you have so much fun doing whatever it is that you must do that the time ceases to exist, I come out here and I do this, and it's like, oh, I can breathe, So if you're watching this, maybe you'll be inspired, see, to go out and do what you must do, right? And this is like one thing. It's find out what your badass self looks like, and be that, and it changes, right? It doesn't. Zazu Plaz, for me, every time I read that book, every time I reflect on my stories, they change. And that's the beauty of it, right? Of course, I have Saturn and Pisces, so it's fluid, right? So, but whatever life dishes out, you have a choice how you wish to respond in that instance, right? That's where your freedom is. Freedom to stick up for yourself, and not in a selfish way, but rather to become the self that you must be. Because if you don't, then you're going to have to come back and do it all over again. And next time it's going to be harder. It's like you're playing a board game, right? And you always got that one person who's making hotels. You play Monopoly, right? Like my son, the professor. He's over there putting up hotels, and I'm still trying to get out of jail, right? So, anyway, full moon tonight. There's a full moon up there. You see? See? I offer that for your viewing pleasure. And full moon in Leo. That was my grandfather. My grandfather was Leo, and my grandmother was Leona. So I've got a lot of Leos in my family. Performers and a lot of pride, right? So, in other words, okay. So, and the song that popped into my head this morning, after I heard Freedom, I thought, oh, George Michael, Freedom, right? And so that was the first song, and that's the one where he refused to be in the video. It was 1990 thereabouts, I forget. I don't know what year actually was released, but I remember it in around 90. It was all the supermodels, lying around, and Freedom. Anyway, big, huge George Michael fan here. And I liked him even more. That was the thing. When he, stopped trying to be the, bubblegum, teen, Wham was great. Wham. I was in college when Wham was, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. That was good. We needed that. We needed Wham, but then we needed George Michael to be George Michael. Now, in my opinion, the music only got better when he became, he stood up for himself. He said, "Look, I'm not gonna be who you want to be. I've got to be, and there's somebody else I have to be, right? Take all the politics, take all the views out of it. He's a soul who came here to be, share his amazing vocal talents with the world. Yeah, he looked, he looked good in his videos, right? I mean, he was with the leather jacket and all. I mean, yeah, he could do that, but he had to take things up a notch, and he had to play the game by his rules, right? Okay, if we're gonna do this, da 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 da, right? Because you gotta ultimately live with yourself, right? I wanted to watch that new Jennifer Grey movie, the one where she's this religious. Well, it was on Lifetime anyway this weekend, and we don't get cable, so my husband's like there trying to figure out how can we watch this, and this movie, Starving for God or something. I forget the name of it. Anyway, Starving for Salvation. I don't know. Anyway, but she was, she's been around talking about what she did for that role, and she said, well, this is meaningful to me. I'll do this, but you're gonna have to buy me the wig, and I'm gonna have to get a vocal dialect coach to learn how to, how to do this right. And so that's Saturn, right? Okay, here are my limits, right? There are my limits. This is how far I'm willing to go, right? Because otherwise, you're letting people know, okay, here is how I want to be treated, and I'll do it. You'll get this from me if you do this for me, right? And they're very clear about it. I admire that. And that's not something I've been real good at doing in my life until now. Now I'm getting better at it, right? And it's not that, there's a difference between clearly stating how you want to show up in the world in a certain situation and doing it with utmost integrity and clarity. That gets great movies made that people want to watch. And I'm still going to watch it. I'll figure it out. Oh, heck, no. I'm not going to do that. I'll figure out how to do it legally. Maybe they'll have it streaming somewhere, and I can just watch it for a small fee. Otherwise, Saturn's going to come in. That's not right. And plus, she gets, the artists deserve to get paid for what they do, right? So there's that. But it's not like it's not the same as setting limits as far as like, somebody just tells you something you don't want to hear. That's different, right? You can choose not to take that in. But sometimes it's good to observe those reactions because they help you grow. How do we know how others perceive us, right? Unless we get feedback. So there's that. And then the other song is Philadelphia Freedom, which is Elton John, of course, when I was a kid. See, I was a little kid when that one came out, 1973 or 4, 1975. February 24th, 75 it was released, and then it was on an album, a greatest hits album later. But he wrote that, Elton John and Bernie Taupin, they wrote that for Billie Jean King. the tennis player because she was on the Philadelphia Freedoms. But the song isn't about tennis. It's not about tennis. It's not about her per se. Although she was awesome. She beat that other tennis player guy, Bobby Riggs. There was this guy, and I kind of remember that. I was about 9 years old at the time. I remember him saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna play a girl. This woman. She's not gonna be." She beat him. She beat him several sets, and that was, that she was here to do that. That's what she must. That's what the thing that she had to do. She must do that, right? And she did it. And she's amazing. See? And what if she had never done that? What if she had never shown up? Or she said, "Oh, I don't think I can do this." No. She went out. She had control over her emotions. I'm sure that she was a bundle of emotions, right? Excitement, anger, passion. But, she went out and she did what she does. She did her very best at what she's good at, which is, tennis. She's good at a lot of other things too. But if we just take it, for that moment, that's the thing, right? The world wouldn't have had George Michael's awesome voice, and that's what there is a point where you must step up and you must add your spice to the big pot. And those who would keep you back from doing that, the crabs trying to pull you back in the bucket, they don't want you to do that because then you make them look bad. The crab gets out, runs away, and the other crabs are just sitting there and, you're just another crab, right? You're not special. I mean, you are special, but you're not. In other words, if you don't try, what do you want on your tombstone is the, well, you just hung out in the bucket, whatever. Just, no! What do you want people to say about you, right? And just think about that. It's not, it's merely like, it's sort of like, you're gonna leave one party and go on to another party. Life and death is just that, is that. And it's nothing to be feared, but it's something, it's something to keep in mind, you see, as a motivator, right? To get you to, if you had no time limit, then some of us who procrastinate would say, my Saturn happens to be retrograde, my natal Saturn. And that means that when I was born, it looked like it was going backwards because of the speed or whatever. It's an illusion. But what it means is, those of us with Saturn retrograde, it means that later in life, it's kind of like pulling back, a bow and arrow. And right when you get to that point, pew, you let it go, right? It's kind of like, the kind of person like I was in high school, sitting in Mr. Greer's class, taking notes, saying, someday, and here I am. And then you're wondering, am I going to be in Leslie's next book? Ooh. And then you start thinking, gee, was I nice to her? Because I remember. So on that note, I'll leave you. Of course, I wouldn't hurt anybody. Never, never do that. I change all the names when I do the stories. And maybe you won't even recognize yourself. Some people have read my book and haven't even recognized themselves, and I had to point them out. So that's at least, if you recognize yourself, that means that you're doing some good work. And until next week. Oh, thank you to my husband. He fixed my lantern. It was really failing, and I didn't know what was going on, but then he fixed it. See? So thank you to him. And until next week, Zazu Plaz, signing out. Make it a good one. Feel free to do what you must. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.